Just after 1 o'clock this afternoon, we got a phone call from a frantic young mother, 22-year-old mother who has 3 children, that her and one of her children, one of 3 children, a toddler 3 years old, had just got out of the house that was on fire and that they needed help. The call went to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office and Hillsborough County Fire Rescue. And at the same time, she was given information that the rest of her family, her husband and the father of her other 2 children, a 5-year-old and a 14-month-old, were still inside the residence. So as you could imagine, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office were driving, and for anyone out there that might have got run off the road as they were trying to get down here to save the rest of this family, let me be the one to apologize to everybody, because they already knew there were people inside. You could imagine what that feels like. As a deputy arrives on scene, we happen to get here just a few moments before Hillsborough County Fire Rescue did, and met with the mother. And the mother said that her and her husband, also 22 years old, again, young parents, were asleep. And the 3-year-old came in, woke up the mom, and said, "Mommy, the stove's on fire." And the mom grabbed the 3-year-old's son and immediately started looking as seeing the fire and looking for a way out of the residence, and managed to walk out of the residence. And she says the last thing she remembers is turning around and seeing her husband with the other 2 children walking behind her. She got outside and they never made it outside. The deputy said he's never felt more helpless in his entire career as being a deputy sheriff. The blaze as he arrived on scene was so intense at that point that he couldn't get within 20 feet of the trailer. He ran around all sides seeing if there was some place that wasn't fully engulfed, where this blaze wasn't that intense where he could make entry, and he couldn't do anything. He said, "Sheriff, I had never felt more helpless in my entire life. The only thing I was left being able to do was trying to comfort, to no avail, this young mother and her 3-year-old son." They were not injured. Hillsborough County Fire Rescue did transport them to Tampa General Hospital just to make sure that they were okay and that they didn't suffer any injuries. We just wanted to make sure that there was no circumstance that where these other 2 were injured in any shape, way, or form. Fire Rescue gets on scene moments after we do, don all their protective gear, and knowing that there's 3 more people inside this trailer, they're going inside. They're going inside this dangerous situation, and they're going to save whoever they can save. The fire was that intense as they grabbed their hose lines and don that protective gear that they have. They go to try to make entry, and the blaze was so intense that the whole roof of the mobile home collapsed. They still moments later, regardless of their risk to their own lives, make entry and go in. They're able to go as far in where they're able to see this young father. They grab him, trying to remove him from the house, thinking, hey, we don't know if he's dead, if he's succumbed to the injuries, or if he's alive. We're going to do what we can do. They take him outside and immediately realize that he's already succumbed to his injuries. Unfortunately, they weren't able to go back inside and get the other 2 children, and we weren't able to recover them until this blaze was fully extinguished at that time. As you could imagine, there is going to be a lot of counseling that our brothers and sisters at Hillsborough County Fire Rescue and our deputies are going to have to see. And some of those services are already on scene. They got here shortly after some of our investigators to get on scene to determine how Hillsborough County Fire Rescue will determine the how and the why, how did this get started. But I don't think that anything that we will determine will bring any comfort to this family who's lost 2 children, 2 small children, an infant child, and a young father. I talked to the wife's father, who just dropped off the 14-month-old baby an hour, no less than an hour before the fire started. He had spent the day with them, and he was telling me, Sheriff, this is a hardworking family. They pay by the week here. The two of them hustle to try to make bills, to pay their bills, to try to make sure that they're able to provide food in these little baby stomach and a shelter and roof over their head. And that's what they did, that they were a hardworking family, never been in any type of trouble, never been anything but good to everybody. And again, I have to thank Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, because at one point, because of these dry conditions, one of the concerns even shifted, that we were afraid that one of the fires was going to start in one of these other remaining 5 mobile homes that are in this park. But again, because of the quick actions of Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, we're able to stand here today, a very tragic day, and have to sadly report that 2 young children, an infant even, and a young parent lost their lives here today. But it's because of Hillsborough County Fire Rescue that we're here, and they're the only ones that lost their life here today or lost a place to live here today. Public Affairs Officer Chief Heron with Hillsborough County Fire Rescue is here. If you have any questions, I'll open it up to questions at this point and then turn it over to him. Yes. 3 children, two females and a male. The oldest is 5 years old. She was a female. The youngest, 14-month-old, she was a female. It was the young boy who was 3 years old who was able to grab his mom and alert his mom that there was a fire in the kitchen, that the stove was on fire. And again, as she exited and looked back, the last image she said she saw was her husband with the other 2 children, turned back around and saw that they had succumbed to this very, very intense blaze.
Sheriff, I could hear it in your voice that it's an emotional day for you when you're kind of relaying this. I mean, can you just talk about that a little bit?
This is tough. I empathize with every first responder that came out here today, as I went and could see the 2 small children inside the house that wasn't able to make it out, to see the father laying under a sheet that they pulled out and weren't able to save, that already succumbed to these injuries, and then talk to the uncle and I mean the father, her father, the grandfather of these children. Maybe I should have waited and spoke to him until after I addressed the media, because I tell you what, it was hard to compose myself.
You talked about, are there hydrants in the area, or maybe about how the water needs to be shoveled in?
Yeah, no issues there. I'll turn it over to the chief, but no issues as far as, resources getting on scene. That didn't contribute to any of the extinguishment of the fire or the spread of the fire. Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, again, I'll let them speak on it. Everything was there. Again, it just, the blaze took over the residents, this mobile home, so fast that no one could have done anything more than what was done here today. Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sheriff Chronister. Rob Heron, Public Safety Information Chief with Hillsborough County Fire Rescue, to supplement Sheriff Chronister's summary of the event. Our units arrived on scene to a mobile home that was heavily involved in fire. Understanding the priority on these calls is life safety. Our engine crew got off the engine, as he said, donned with their equipment, ready to effect a rescue. We knew when the call came in that there were 5 individuals in the home. 2 had made it out, that the 3 were still inside, and our crews were ready to do work and get in there and effect that rescue. When they attempted to make entry, they were met with intense fire conditions, and as the sheriff stated, the majority of the roof collapsed at that time. They took measures to begin extinguishing the blaze enough so that they could make entry and effect the rescue, as the sheriff said, of the 22-year-old male that they eventually discovered that he had succumbed to his injuries or to the fire already. We continued to fight the blaze, extinguishing it. We had a total of 13 units on scene to battle this fire. We've had our Fire Chief Dennis Jones on scene, our deputy chiefs on scene, mostly to support these crews. As the sheriff said, first responders, it's innate in us that we want to help, and his description of that first arriving officer of feeling helpless, that's one of the worst things for a first responder to feel, to not be able to do what they're trained to do. And even our firefighters who knew they had to effect this rescue, had their gear and were ready to do it, just couldn't do it. They were pushed back by the heat of the fire before they could knock that fire down and get into that house. So a question was raised about water supply in the area. There are no hydrants, but Hillsborough County Fire Rescue had no problem with water here. We have tankers that carry 3,000 plus gallons of water. Our fire engines have enough to certainly knock that fire down to get our guys inside and gals inside to effect this rescue.
It's probably too early for this, but any idea? I mean, it sounded like it may have started around the stove, but any idea what caused it?
Unfortunately, at this time, no. I just spoke to our lead fire investigator, and they're not able to make any kind of determinations at this time. It's still under investigation. I wouldn't say it made it difficult, no, ma'am. Like the sheriff said, we were cautious about, we call it exposures. So the houses that are next to this mobile home that was on fire, we want to make sure it doesn't spread to anything. Certainly there's always a danger with the dry conditions that we have of embers, going a distance and catching a field on fire that we don't even know about. That can happen, and it's still very dry in Hillsborough County. But in this particular circumstance, we were able to keep it isolated to the mobile home of origin.
Any reason to believe it's suspicious?
It's still under investigation, yes, sir.
We don't. They lived in a mobile home as a family, again, paying weekly as a hard-working family, but we don't know how long they lived there. I don't have that. I'll get that information put out. I do want to put out the address, and I apologize, I didn't put that earlier. 1608 Pritcher Road, and it was lot 6 here in Lithia, Florida. Again, I ask all of you, please, as you say your prayers tonight when you go to bed, please say a prayer for this young mom and her infant who lost 2 of her children and her husband. Not at this point. Again, that's a great resource. We're not even at that point yet. Again, we have a lot of counselors, a lot of victim assistants on scene. Some of us will be traveling to Tampa General Hospital. We'll be speaking to her family, and be assured whatever this family needs, they'll get. Just after 1 p.m. Just after 1 p.m. this afternoon. Again, and within 12 minutes, a deputy sheriff was here, and shortly after that, the Hillsborough County Fire Rescue was here. That just shows you how quick this blaze, took over this entire trailer, mobile home. Yeah, the 5-year-old and the 14-month-old, both females, lost their life. Thank you, everyone. Please be safe.